isn't that running a marathon is a life skill, but it's the ability to discipline yourself and commit yourself, the willpower, to doing something every day, even when it's tedious, even when it's boring, because it leads to great things later on, big things later on. Nobody falls out of the womb throwing the winning touchdown at the Super Bowl. It takes a lot of sitting in the backyard and throwing a football through a tire or whatever, or a bunch of little running things, even when you're tired, even when you're bored, even when you're hurt, even when there's someplace else you'd rather be. That sets you up so that you can be the person at the moment of greatness. Relationships are very much like that. Relationships are all about the little things. If any of you have ever been in one, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the little things. And you know when the relationship starts to fall off because the little things stop being done. What that means is that you're no longer doing the little things that could lead to greatness. You're avoiding the little things, which means that there is no future in it. There is no greatness in it. Not in your relationships, not in your jobs, not in your futures, not in almost anything. You can't achieve great things unless you can discipline yourself to do the little things along the way. It's all the same, isn't it? It's discipline and willpower. In relationships, in school, in business, in friendships, in every area of your life, you're made better by that. And now you have to imagine, like, what could you be capable of if you stayed with it? It isn't that you lack the ability to. You lack that discipline, that personal discipline. But I'm bored. It ain't about motivation, dude. Motivation is nice. If you've got somebody in your life who motivates you, who comes along and is like, come on, you can do it. That's nice, until one day it doesn't motivate you. Discipline is the thing that carries you forward when motivation fails. It probably resides in that thing about the work. So if any of you guys ever start your own companies, this is a really important number to keep in mind. I don't remember the name of the principle, but if you look it up, you can find it out. In short, you see this play out in businesses, you see it play out in schools, you see it play out in every organization. It's a hard and fast rule. We don't know why it happens, but it does. It's a phenomenon in nature. And it's not even just with humans, it's a phenomenon even like in any animal that lives in a colony. What in short is this: half of your production comes from a square root of your organization. So let's say you have 100 employees. 10 of your top employees, so your top 10 employees are going to be responsible for 50% of your production. The other 50 will be responsible the other 90 will be responsible for the other 50%. You follow? So if you have an organization that has 1,000 people, 100 people will be responsible for half of your production, which essentially means you have 90% of your employees, in that case, who are just kind of like, existing, getting by, scraping by, and doing the bare minimum. Then you have a small group of people who do most of your production. And it's out of that small group of people that you then start to see them go off into their own businesses, which is a frustrating thing for people who work. Because what you find out is that most people do the bare minimum. And the bare minimum is going to be established by what it is that you want out of it. So for example, just to use school for example, if you want to get a credit in a class, you just have to get a 60%. You just have to get a D. How hard is that in most classes? It's really not that hard. If you aren't setting out to learn, if you're setting out like, I just want to get a credit so I don't have to retake it so I can get out of school, what will you get out of it? You'll get your credit. You'll graduate and you'll get out of school. You'll get exactly what you set out for. And most people do that. They get exactly what it is that they set out for. There are some people who set out for much more. That's that square root of your organization, that 10 out of your 100, who set out to not just get a paycheck, but to be self-fulfilled by their job, to do the best that they can, to get everything they want out of it, and especially largely to even get some skills out of it so that they want to go off and start their own company someday. It's that hard work thing that now turns people off, because how hard is it to send those text messages every night, good night? How hard is it to send those text messages every morning, good morning? It's not hard until you have to do it, because it's that consistency that's difficult. People can get a new job and be all excited about it, fired up. This is different. This is different. It's because, new job, new me. That's one of the great lies of human culture. New year, new me. New job, new me. New semester, new me. No, unless something has changed about you. And you're going to find that that's just a thing that carries over into where most people go. And so when he's saying here that the other part of love is difficult, it requires discipline, willpower, opening your heart. It's that hard work that goes into it. And the hard work isn't like, it's the tediousness of having to do those same things every day, that when they fall off, it then of course feels like the relationship itself falls off. So, it's the honeymoon phase. Why the honeymoon phase? And that's the really telling part of you. Wherever you go, what's that honeymoon phase that you're in? When you start a new class, are you in that first thing when you're like, I'm gonna commit myself, I'm gonna study? Because that tells you something about yourself. That tells you who you want to be. Then look at yourself at the end of a semester and look at who you are allowing yourself to become. And you're gonna oftentimes find there's a big wide gulf between those two. And that's just bad for our psyches, because there's one that tells you who you want to be and the other one tells you who you actually are. And when those are different, I don't know any other way to say it, it really messes with you, because it can cause you to think like, this is who you end up to be. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not. You look at who you are at the beginning of a relationship. Look at the effort you put in. If that thing collapses at the very end, even if it's not your fault, even if it is the other person's fault, look at where you ended up. And you're going to see oftentimes there's a big discrepancy between those two things. It's like I often say that, think about, like if you tell lies about yourself, it's important to examine those lies about yourself, because the lies that you tell about yourself tell you, and of course the world, but more importantly, they tell you who it is that you want to be. If you're a person who runs around and tells people, oh yeah, I run marathons. So now you know, you're a person who admires people who runs marathons. And if you don't do it, then you can't really admire yourself. So what do you have to do in order to be someone that in your own eyes is worthy of being admired? You have to go run a marathon. It doesn't mean you have to win it. It just means you have to set your mind to it, do it every day, and accomplish it. And you're going to find that as unexciting as it is, that is what leads to a lot of life success. It's the little things that you do every single day so that you're in a position that when the big things happen, you're ready for it. Every day, you commit yourself, I'm going to go run a couple, I'm going to run a little bit here, I'm going to run a little bit there, just to build yourself up, and then when it comes time to run the marathon, you do it. Now, it isn't that running a marathon is a life skill, but it's the ability to discipline yourself and commit yourself, the willpower, to doing something every day, even when it's tedious, even when it's boring, because it leads to great things later on, big things later on. Nobody falls out of the womb throwing the winning touchdown at the Super Bowl. It just doesn't happen. It takes a lot of sitting in the backyard and throwing a football through a tire or whatever, or a bunch of little running things, even when you're tired, even when you're bored, even when you're hurt, even when there's someplace else you'd rather be. That sets you up so that you can be the person at the moment of greatness. It's a bunch of little tiny things. And relationships are very much like that. Relationships are all about the little things. If any of you have ever been in one, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the little things. And you know when the relationship starts to fall off, because the little things stop being done. What that means is that you're no longer doing the little things that can lead to greatness. You're avoiding the little things, which means that there is no future in it. There is no greatness in it. Not in your relationships, not in your jobs, not in your futures, not in almost anything. You can't achieve great things unless you can discipline yourself to do the little things along the way. And so there's a reason that when I talk to you guys, I try to talk to you for 13 to 15 minutes. I try not to go too far over that. I try not to go too far under that. Why? Because that's part of a skill. Being able to sit and listen to someone talk for an extended period of time, not in jump cuts, short bites, because you can't really gain ideas that way. It's impossible. It's literally impossible to do. If you learn that way, then you learn very shallowly. You can't apply you can't use shallow ideas to come up with great ideas of your own. You know? And so it's interesting. It's all the same, isn't it? It's discipline and willpower in relationships, in school, in business, in friendships, in every area of your life. You're made better by that. And we all know it. And we all begin, many of us begin all of our new endeavors this way. The same way that we're bragging about how we're going to run a marathon, we're bragging about how I'm going to do great at this job. There's a lot of opportunities at this job. I'm going to do great this semester. I'm going to study hard and be different this year. Yeah, and the thing that sucks is that if you're able to imagine that, you're able to do it. That's the hard part. Because if you can sit there and say, you know what, this year I'm going to be different. This semester, I'm going to study hard, I'm going to do well. And you do it for a little bit and you turn in your first few assignments, that means you're capable of doing it. And now you have to imagine, like, what could you be capable of if you stayed with it? It isn't that you lack the ability to. You lack that discipline, that personal discipline. But I'm bored. It ain't about motivation, dude. Motivation is nice. If you've got somebody in your life who motivates you, who comes along and is like, come on, you can do it. That's nice, until one day it doesn't motivate you. Discipline is the thing that carries you forward when motivation fails. There will be days that you're not going to be motivated. If you're, some of you in here, if you do like cross country or you run, like every day you wake up and you're like, I want to go run. That'd be a good idea. Some of you guys who play football, you wake up every day and you just can't wait to go in the gym and lift weights, even though you're sore from the previous day. It's easy to say, I don't feel like doing it today, and then not do it. If you're disciplined, though, it's like, I don't feel like doing this today. This is terrible. I can't stand doing this, but you go anyway, and then you grow from it. And any of you guys who are athletes, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's on the days that you don't want to be there that you grow the most. The days when you sit there and go, I don't want to be here, man. You focus in some way, you force yourself to be there, you always grow more than on the days that you were really excited about being there. And you know, if you're an athlete, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like that with life generally. It's those little things that seem like they're tedious and boring that, man, they add up to big things. I had a high school baseball coach once. He probably said it better than I could. I love the way it was so simple. He'd say, do the little things right, big things happen. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. It's so obviously true. Do the little things well, big good things happen. Do the little things badly, big bad things happen. Big bad catastrophes don't typically come out of nowhere. It's little things that lead us along that way. Great things don't come out of nowhere typically. It's little things that lead us to that point. And so it's that last part that's difficult, man. Opening your heart again and again to someone with whom you're angry, can't stand, and do not like. That's where the discipline comes in. And some of you, by the way, I say this about love in the works. We've all been in this position. Some of your parents feel exactly that way. I'm sure mine did at some point. Do our parents always, are they ever angry with you? Can't stand you, can't stand the way that you are, pissed off at you for the way that you're being? All of us are in that position at some point. And all of you, I imagine if you're parents, someday you're going to feel that way. You're going to be angry with your kids. You can't stand them. Well, then why do you do those things for them? Because you love them. You love them. And that's what love is. Love is not a sentiment. I mean, sure, love is an emotion, okay. But there's a deeper form of love, which has nothing to do with how you feel. It has everything to do with what you do. You might love football. You might love playing it. But if you base it completely off of your emotions, again, there'll be days you aren't going to feel like doing it. It's the discipline that drives you. Love is what you do, not what you feel. Because if love is all about how you feel, then we're all doomed. Because, as Jenny said, your feelings change over time. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, Neat. All right.